The fairy tale castle on Disney's logo has never looked lonelier. For nearly a century, that shimmering skyline promised wonder. But on March 21, 2025, the day Disney's live-action Snow White finally reached theaters, the dream dissolved into a billion-dollar nightmare. Within 4 short weeks, the remake earned a place in the record books, not for magic, but for becoming the studio's costliest crash and burn, an implosion so public that empty auditoriums trended on TikTok while shareholders trended toward panic. How did a story that once defined happily ever after spiral into the biggest box office faceplant of the decade? Stay with me, because each layer of this catastrophe peels back a fresher bruise, and the bruises tell a story the castle would rather hide. It started with a stumble nobody saw, because almost nobody showed up. Opening weekend is supposed to be Disney's royal coronation, the moment crowds flood multiplexes and analysts race to upgrade earnings forecasts. Instead, Snow White collected a modest $42 million in North America, respectable for most films, disastrous for one, lugging a reported $410 million in combined production and marketing costs. Studio insiders prayed a second-week surge might save face. Reality answered with a 66% nosedive, bleeding ticket sales faster than concessions could refill soda fountains. By the third Friday, the film posted a further 58.5% drop, enough to make even the most optimistic executive whisper, "We're iced." The public felt the chill firsthand. Social feeds overflowed with photos of deserted screening rooms, entire rows of untouched recliners glowing in blue safety lights, popcorn machines idling in silence. One viral clip showed a lone teenager spinning circles in the dead center of an IMAX auditorium, arms outstretched like she'd rented the Met for a private gala. Her caption read, "Snow White? More like no white." It was savage, outrageous, and entirely accurate. Theater owners soon yanked the movie from primetime slots, shoving it into breakfast showings beside ancient reruns and indie documentaries that cost less than Cinderella's ball gown. Empty seats became the film's most faithful audience. But the humiliation refused to confine itself to U.S. soil. Across the Pacific, Disney had blitzed Chinese cities with giant LED billboards of Rachel Zegler's porcelain face, confident that Mulan's homeland would fall for a new princess. Instead, Beijing blogs posted headcounts you could tally on one hand. In Shanghai, an IMAX screening recorded 5 patrons, 2 of them journalists sniffing for schadenfreude. Ticket tracking site Maoyan predicted the film would fail to crack the country's top 10 for the month, a scarlet letter in a territory Disney once dominated. America ignored the movie. China ghosted it altogether. And if you listened closely, you could almost hear the dwarves whistling a funeral march. Still, numbers alone don't bruise egos. Losses do. Industry math is brutal. Big-budget tentpoles must gross roughly 2.5 times their combined budgets just to break even. For Snow White, that magic number hovered near $1 billion. Instead, the film stumbled toward a global haul of $195 million, leaving Disney to swallow an estimated $145 million shortfall after marketing write-offs. That makes the flop more painful than John Carter, The Lone Ranger, and Strange World combined. In conference calls, executives stopped calling the project a disappointment and started labeling it, with quiet dread, a write-down. At the next shareholder Q&A, one analyst bluntly asked CEO Bob Iger if the studio had lost the plot entirely. His response was a diplomatic shrug. "We exist to entertain." Translation, ouch. And yet, dollars weren't the only casualties. The human fallout proved louder, rawer, and impossible to spin. Front and center stood 23-year-old Rachel Zegler, the breakout soprano from West Side Story, and briefly Disney's newest princess. During pre-release interviews, Zegler called the 1937 classic weird and joked that the prince in the original basically stalks her. Some viewers loved the candor, others saw disrespect. Then came the politics. Pro-Palestinian tweets clashed with co-star Gal Gadot's outspoken support for Israel, fueling headlines that dragged geopolitics into what should have been a family fantasy. Within a week, the red carpet felt more like a minefield. The internet wasted no time piling on. Fan forums accused Zegler of arrogance, right-wing pundits labeled her too woke, and progressive critics counterpunched by calling the backlash misogynistic. Caught in the middle, Zegler reportedly fled Los Angeles for New York City, ducking cameras and commuting by subway like a local ghost. Paparazzi snapshots of her slouching behind a hoodie fed the rumor mill. Was she fired? Was she in therapy? Did Disney impose a gag order? No definitive answers emerged, but one truth hardened. Zegler's meteoric rise had entered freefall, and Hollywood talent scouts suddenly had cold feet. Meanwhile, Burbank's strategy meetings turned into triage centers. For more than a decade, Disney's live-action remakes operated like ATMs. Aladdin printed $1 billion. The Lion King roared past $1.6 billion. Even the polarizing Beauty and the Beast waltzed to $1.2 billion. But Snow White smashed the ATM screen and swallowed the debit card. Panic spread to the next project in line, Tangled. Insiders leaked that pre-production was immediately paused as executives asked the terrifying question, what if audiences are sick of reheated classics? Production designers who'd spent months researching medieval Germany were suddenly told to take an indefinite break. In plain English, the princess is grounded until further notice. What went so catastrophically wrong? One answer hides behind the scenes, where creative clashes turned fairy tale collaboration into open warfare. Sources claim Zegler tried to reshape Snow White into a romance-free feminist icon, pushing to scrap entire sequences featuring the prince. Director Mark Webb reportedly compromised, cutting half the prince's screen time and replacing the seven dwarfs with CGI forest companions to avoid dwarfism stereotype. Those decisions enraged traditionalists and even offended actor Peter Dinklage, who blasted the project for celebrating progressive casting while sidelining dwarf performers. Disney, in Crossfire, opted for digital dwarfs, pleasing nobody and doubling VFX costs. On top of that, marketing missteps piled up. Instead of Nostalgia 101, snowy castles, whistling dwarfs, woodland critters, trailers spotlighted themes of self-empowerment and no prince required. Focus group moms found the messages preachy. Teen boys scrolled past entirely. Worse, competing studios pounced on Disney's weakness. The long gestating Minecraft, the movie dropped its first trailer a week after Snow White's debut, siphoning away millions of Gen Z eyeballs. Marvel, also under Disney's roof, offered a second weekend distraction with Captain America, Brave New World, pulling superhero junkies out of theaters that Snow White desperately needed to fill. By the time a mid-April downpour swept the East Coast, audience interest had washed down the storm drains. While the box office bled, internal morale cratered. Rumors bubbled of screaming matches between producers who wanted reshoots and accountants who refused to write another check. Visual effects artists swore deadlines were moved 3 times, each more impossible than the last. And as the release date approached, Disney trimmed scheduled press junkets, quietly instructing international partners to keep questions positive. Not even Mickey could spin that into confidence. Behind closed studio doors, Zegler's own circle reportedly urged her to lay low. She shut down comments on Instagram and skipped her usual TikTok song covers. Yet the silence only amplified speculation. One tabloid suggested she was blacklisted from big franchises until audiences forgot the fiasco. Another swore she'd signed onto a gritty indie film to rebuild cred. The truth landed somewhere in between. 3 weeks ago, People magazine confirmed Zegler's next project, a mid-budget dark comedy opposite Oscar winner Marissa Tomei. The casting sounded promising, but talent agents whispered that her salary was a fraction of what Disney paid for Snow White, from princess to pay cut in 4 months. If career setbacks sting, corporate backlash burns hotter. Inside Disney's executive suites, the flop triggered what one source called the Monday Massacre, a round of emergency meetings to audit every in-development remake. The Princess and the Frog, Hercules, Bambi, all suddenly under cost-benefit microscopes. Marketing chiefs argued that audiences still crave fresh spins on familiar tales. Finance wizards retorted that nostalgia isn't bulletproof and budgets must shrink. The conversation ended with a chilling memo. No remake moves forward without a revised risk assessment. Translation: the gravy train just hit a canyon. And yet, the story's darkest twist might be the strain it placed on friendships forged under Klieg lights. Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, maintained diplomatic distance throughout the rollout, issuing supportive yet carefully neutral soundbites. Behind the curtain, insiders say Gadot confronted Zegler after press tour controversies threatened to eclipse the entire film, allegedly telling her younger co-star, "Hollywood forgives many things, but it never forgives bad optics." Whether the exchange happened exactly that way is impossible to prove, but the schism was real enough that Disney Suits reportedly asked Godot to post a public defense of Zegler, and she declined. The evil queen understood brand preservation better than anyone. All these fragments, empty theaters, online fury, corporate cold feet, clattered together like shards of a shattered magic mirror. The reflection that stared back at Disney was ugly but instructive. No brand, however mighty, is immune to audience fatigue, creative discord, or cultural whiplash. When the three collide, even a story children have loved since 1937 can crumble faster than you can say, happily ever after. So, where does the kingdom go from here? Some analysts preach retreat, shelve the remakes, nurture original IP, mend fences with animation loyalists who feel abandoned. Others argue for reinvention, keep revisiting classics but with budgets capped, controversies preempted, and marketing tuned to genuine nostalgia instead of hashtag activism. A third camp, smaller but louder, claims the fiasco wasn't Disney's alone. It was Zegler's miscalculated modernism, her snowflake takes, as one pundit snarked, that turned audiences away. Place the blame wherever you choose. The outcome remains the same. A studio that once printed money on childhood memories now stands at a fork in the enchanted forest, its torch sputtering in the wind. And Rachel Zegler? Her next move may decide whether she stays a cautionary tale or stages a comeback bigger than any castle. If she delivers a fearless performance that reminds viewers why Steven Spielberg fell in love with her voice, the public might forgive, forget, and sing along again. But if she doubles down on polarizing sound bites, Hollywood's memory will lengthen, and the phone might stop ringing. A princess without a kingdom is just a girl in a gown, and gowns wrinkle fast when the spotlight cuts out. For Disney, Snow White marks more than a balance sheet black eye. It's a referendum on the studio's 21st century identity. Is the mouse still the maestro of collective childhood, or has it morphed into a corporate hydra forever chasing quarterly targets with pre-chewed content? Shareholders want answers, creatives want freedom, audiences want magic that doesn't lecture them. Reconciling those demands will be Disney's next epic quest. No magic mirror, no wishing well, just executives armed with spreadsheets and a dwindling supply of audience goodwill. But before the book snaps shut, a final twist. Industry gossip suggests one department inside Disney has quietly pitched a redemption plan, an original animated musical, budgeted at half a typical remake, featuring brand new characters and a plot that trusts its audience rather than panders to trending hashtags. In other words, the very model that built the company in the first place. Whether that idea blooms or withers will determine if Burbank's castle lights whenever the next red carpet night falls. So, as the credits roll on this cautionary saga, I leave you with a question as sharp as the evil queen's apple. Can Rachel Zegler and Disney both emerge from this poison forest transformed, or has Snow White carved their fate in stone? Scroll down, sound off, and let the debate begin, because the next chapter isn't written yet. And who knows, your comment might be the spark that lights the way out.